Well, hello. I am so delighted to be interviewing MC Ernst, who I've known through my work with the International Aviation Women's Association over the last 4 or 5 years. But the reason that I invited MC to participate with us today is because she is the Senior Vice President of Airline Underwriting for USAIG. And of course, as any woman worth her salt, she also wears a number of other hats, and she is an expert on general aviation underwriting as well. MC, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your expertise on aviation insurance.
Thanks for having me, Renee. It's great to be here with you.
Well, I want to start off with a really simple question so that we can all get on the same page. How is aviation insurance different than, say, car insurance or homeowners insurance?
Well, I would actually say, Renee, that it's fairly similar to those in the way that aircraft insurance ensures coverage for both the aircraft itself, so anything that happens to the aircraft or that damages it in any way, but it also covers, on the other side, any liability arising out of the operation of that aircraft. We definitely look at loss history and loss experience. So we look to see if there have been any incidents in the recent past. We generally like to look at a 5-year loss history, sometimes 10 if necessary, just to see if we see any particular incidents, if there's any trends in the losses that a particular client's experienced. That's really our first step. The second is to evaluate the type of aircraft. So certain aircraft types may be more preferable to insure over others, depending on your insurance carrier.
Well, how does one go about buying aviation insurance, aircraft insurance?
So the first step is to find a broker. Oddly enough, aircraft insurance is considered a high-risk industry, and so by regulation, there has to be a sort of expert intermediary that serves as an advisory role to any aircraft insurance buyer, and that is generally the broker. So the first step is to find a broker who can access the insurance market for you, and they would gather all those details that we generally would require. They know what we're going to ask, they know what we require, and they will help the client generally gather all this information and get everything that we need in order to price the coverage for the customer. For the past maybe decade, I'd say, after 9/11, really, insurance rates went through the roof. A lot of insurance companies went out of business as a result of that. Aviation insurance companies, I'm speaking specifically to. And so insurance rates and premiums went through the roof after that event. As you can imagine, with some, it's a little bit of a suck of capacity out of the marketplace. There were some new entrants and new folks who decided to enter the market as aviation insurers.
What do we need to know about aircraft insurance if we're not flying the aircraft? Is there a different policy that we can get when we're not actually flying that's maybe less expensive?
So most aircraft policies will have what's called a layup clause in there, which is in the event that your aircraft is down as a result of maintenance or what have you. It depends on the carrier if they will allow a layup for something like COVID, for example. So generally layups are allowed if you have a heavy check, coming up and the aircraft's going to be down for a while, if you're getting it painted, something like that. We will allow a layup credit, which is basically a return of your premium, a portion of your premium for the time that the aircraft is on the ground. And that is just due to the fact that an aircraft on the ground is less risky than the aircraft that's in the air. So if it's just sitting in a hangar, we return some of that premium to you. So that is something that you want to look in your policy for. With the pandemic, it's been an interesting situation because, like you said, people aren't flying because there's just nowhere to go, or they can't get to where they need to be. So that is a different situation, and many carriers have been offering a COVID layup for that period. So It's an extension of the layup clause that may go a little bit above and beyond, because we know that the aircraft is not down for maintenance. It's not down for a paint job. It's just down because you have nowhere to go. So in that event, many carriers have been offering COVID layups, and you should definitely ask your broker if your carrier is offering that. It's always something that you can ask about. But in general, non-pandemic times, there is generally a layup clause in most policies. And if you don't have one, you should ask for one, because it's a pretty common inclusion for most policies. And it's a way to get some return on your premium if you do have, for example, some maintenance work that's going to have your aircraft down for a little while.